That's my toy though, Dad.
Yeah, look it over. But anyway, welcome back to episode 3 of Caffeine and Cashflow. I'm here with John Graves. He's one of my buddies from Michigan Tech, fellow alumni. He's an electrical engineer. We're here sitting at his house on Christmas Eve, actually, just dropping by.
Yep.
We got some exciting news that the old baby's on the way.
Little baby on the way.
Old baby on the way. But no, anyway, so what I was going to say about the whole precipice of my podcast and in this little video podcast that I do is to talk about the things that suck, that people don't talk about when you get into real estate.
Oh, sure.
Like, because there's always bumps in the road, but no one ever talks about those bumps in the road that you hit. And when it comes to, like, a thing I want to touch on eventually is like your flood insurance thing. Like, you were probably pretty far down the road and, like, already maybe put an inspection in and all that stuff. I think
Offer was in, inspection was in.
And you already paid for a bunch of stuff, and you're like...
I think it was a week before closing. Mortgage company reached out, and they said that I needed flood insurance, or they weren't going to fund the property.
But anyway, so John here, he bought a duplex. When was that?
December of 2018.
December 2018. So just before the new year. Was it 2018?
Yep,
I
last
thought
year.
it was earlier than that for some reason.
Last year.
I mean, I thought it was earlier in fall or spring or something, or the summer. But anyway, yeah, I guess I don't know if you have any stories off the top of your head that you think about when you... Like another good one is when you hired that plumber to come in and clean the drain. And John, a little background on him, he's also a pretty good mechanic. We've worked on a lot of things together, motorcycles, cars, whatever. And I think he knows the value of doing things yourself. And even talk about like when you had to hire that plumber, you found out how much that cost. Just walk me through what happened there and what happened with your tenants and step by step.
So I get a call. It's the first call to actually do anything with my tenants.
First problem.
Not even
with the tenants.
Not even a month
Okay.
in. And they're like, "Hey, my bathroom sink is backed up. My kitchen sink is backed up. I have no water." And I'm like, "Oh shit!" So I had never really looked too much at the plumbing. I get out there and I realize that the kitchen sink and the bathroom sink are tied together. I did my best to clear the traps, and I didn't have a drain snake myself.
Yep.
So I called someone to come out there, and long story short, he brought his drill auger and cleared the drain.
And how much did that cost?
It was close to $350.
$350.
So the next day, I went out to Home Depot and bought an auger. So if I ever had to do it again.
And how much did that auger cost?
$25.
$25. And how long did it take him to clear that drain?
Less than 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
And he was a big dude and had to squeeze into this tiny underneath the sink.
God, but that's one of the things that a lot of people don't talk about when you get into real estate is the importance of knowing how much things cost, so that way you're not getting hosed, and knowing like when you run into a problem.
Also,
like
it's
a simple fix.
For that. It's good to write it in your lease. Tenants can be responsible for any clogged drains. They shouldn't be letting stuff.
You can do that?
You can do that. It's written into my lease.
That's hilarious.
So if I cleared it the first time as a courtesy, but the second time I had to. He clogged it in less than a week. And I said, the first time, that's on me. I wasn't sure who was there before. Yeah. Second time's on you.
What do you think they're doing?
I think he was just cooking and running grease down there.
Do you have a garbage disposal?
Not in that unit. And I've been advised, give them one garbage disposal, and if it breaks during their tenancy, they don't get a second.
Yeah, interesting. I think I have most garbage disposals in most of my units, but just seeing how my girlfriend would cram crap down the garbage disposal makes me not want to give any of my tenants a garbage disposal because you just witness think about that's all going down the drain and it's gonna.
They're not cheap.
Yeah. We had to replace one because this is one. I don't know what she shoved down there, but she cracked the housing on it, and then so I had a tenant that called me, she texted me. She goes, "Hey," she's like, "My garbage disposal is leaking, so I have a water leak underneath my sink. Can you come take care of it?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I was like, "Is it an emergency? Like, do I need to be there like right now?" She's like, "Well, it's spraying really bad," and I'm like. I go, is it leaking? Like, is it from the trap? She's like, "No, it's coming from the back, and it's spraying everywhere."
Oh, jeez.
And I'm just like, oh my god. So
that's a real emergency.
Yeah. So I take off work and I go down there, and she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "It's leaking like right here," and I'm like, "Where?" And then she basically turned on the faucet, and then it was just leaking out the side and like spraying like.
Oh, so the
So it
seal
was-
and the seal in the
No,
faucet was.
No, the actual housing of the garbage disposal was cracked.
Oh.
Like I don't know how that actually happened, but it was like right at the top, like where it locks into the bottom of the sink.
She must have kicked it to
cracked
try
there.
and get it running again.
Yeah, or I don't know if you should cram something in there that would have broke it. But I mean that was an exciting time. But no, when you were buying your duplex though, at what point, like when were you supposed to close when you found out about the flood insurance?
We were supposed to close, I want to say like December 10th, and we found out on the 7th.
And when did you make an offer on this place? Like
I mean,
probably
it
November
was probably
or October or something.
It
like
was
that, hey?
probably November, but a little bit before Thanksgiving, maybe mid-November. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Gotcha.
But I think, that was a curveball, but it was an easy update to my spreadsheet that I've got, and it's still cash flowed, maybe not as good as I wanted it to.
But the most important thing is they actually jumped in. You actually still went ahead with it because you realized, like, you know what, I'm making a little bit of money. You know, even if I break even, I'll still come up with some tax breaks, and I'll save some money on that end too.
The important thing for me was I knew the benefits of this. Woody's been doing this for a long time. He's been preaching to me, and I just wanted to get into it.
Yeah, I was preaching about real estate to my friends before I even bought a piece of real estate.
Yeah,
but I was just like, I know I'm going to do this.
Yep, and that's kind of where I was at. I knew I needed to take the step because I'm the kind of guy that just learns by doing it. I hate reading too many books without actually taking action.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
you're
exactly.
just full of smoke.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty easy to just do like the whole. I mean, the term analysis paralysis is definitely a real thing, and there's a lot of people out there that just will harp on you about what to do and what not to do. But I'm like, what have you done? They have done nothing, and I hate it when people like the generation above me will give me, real estate advice.
Yeah, well, they're always like, well, I don't want to
that.
fix toilets, or I don't want to do.
Or they'll be like, oh, you gotta watch out for this, you gotta watch out for that. I'm just like have you ever owned a rental property? I'm like, no, you don't. No, you're an idiot. Like, like the stuff. I was like, how often do you bust your toilet in half at your own house? You know,
Right.
Never. I was like,
Never.
why do you have to worry about that? But how would you go about learning about flood insurance before you bought a place? Is that something the seller has to disclose, or can they do that? I don't know thing.
Well, the seller doesn't technically need flood insurance if they own the property outright. So the previous owner on this property didn't have flood insurance because they owned it outright, and I was going through conventional mortgage because it was my first one.
Okay.
So in hindsight,
But
you know that it's a possibility that you're in the flood zone, there's a website, the FEMA flood zone. You can plug in your address and it'll tell you. It'll give you a map, and you can look at exactly where your property's at and see if you're in the flood zone.
So there you go. Someone check. Piece of advice.
Yep.
FEMA floodplain. I'm actually doing a job where I'm redoing the floodplain in Clinton County, so I probably actually should have known that. But
Well, this property was probably a little bit more than I wanted to do on my first one. I guess in hindsight, I would have probably bought a property that already had tenants, but I'm pretty hands-on, and I had a couple other guys go in with me. So I think closing was like $16,000, and then we put another $6,000 in repairs, and we did all the work ourselves.
And this was
then rented out.
this was a red tag property, right?
I wouldn't say it was red tagged, but there was no active rental license, and there was a laundry list of items that we needed to get done.
From like the last inspection that get the license.
I had the inspector come out
Okay.
and then take a look, and
Gotcha.
both the city and my own inspector. And
Okay.
there were some things the city required, some things that were would like to have from
Yep.
my own inspector, and that
Yeah.
You do the bare minimum until you start cash flowing, and then you can spend someone else's money to.
Oh yeah,
to make the
exactly.
repairs.
Yeah, I think that's the most important part is like not being afraid of doing a little project because I actually have a book for you that I didn't bring you with me. Don't let me forget that.
Yeah.
But he kind of talks about like you'll find a property, you're like, okay, this works, like it'll cash flow. Even if I got to pump a little bit of money into it, but then next thing you get an inspection done and you have a laundry list of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And that's pretty intimidating. That's enough where that scares most people away.
Yeah.
But then you start getting into it, you're like, okay, well, there's termite damage, and you're like, okay, well, you go in there, you're like, okay, I just have to assist her a couple of joists. That's $30 in lumber.
You just start making a list, and once you have the list of inspection items, it's actually helpful in the negotiation process, because once you know what needs to be done, you can put a value on it, and that's actually what I did on this property. I think the initial price was I think $54,000.
Yeah, let's touch on that.
And I offered $54,000, and when I went in for the inspection, I think we had my inspector came in. We paid him like $600. He gave me a number of items, and then the city inspector gave me a number of items. And
Boys. Okay.
you guys are nuts. Hold on. Perfect.
Dad. Atlas, come here.
Wait.
It's about 11 minutes.
All right. Wait.
I was shooting for a half hour here. That's what I want to get out of this.
Oh, we'll get a half hour for sure.
Yep.
Sorry, we just had to rile up, get the boys settled down there.
Had to wrestle the dogs up.
Yeah. So,
But you talk about negotiating price, and you offer full price up front.
I think an inspection's always good to have. And you can go into it, if you go into it with the mindset that I'm going to spend $700 on the inspection, but what he gives me is going to be worth $2,000 or $3,000 in
Negotiating power, essentially.
Negotiating power, right? So what I had them do, just so that we could reduce our cash outlay, I had them take off about $3,000 off of the closing costs.
Okay.
So I was actually able to limit my cash outlay to about $20,000, where I would have needed about $24,000 if I would have put it towards the cost of the house.
Yeah.
Mortgage.
Definitely. So then, what did you end up buying the place for?
$50,000.
So $50,000 for a duplex, and this is in the city of Lansing.
City of Lansing.
Because a lot of people, they don't believe me when I say what we pay for a unit. So $25,000 a unit. Our utilities are not split up, right?
No.
No. Okay. And then, but what do they rent for?
The upper unit has a little bit more updates. That one rents for $820 currently, but that includes a
Holy crap.
pet fee. So I have a $40 pet fee monthly.
Yeah, that was way more than I thought it was going to be.
That's way more. Yeah. And maybe I got away with something there, but people
love their pets. Yeah, people love their pets, man.
Downstairs, I think, is renting for $720 right now.
$720. Okay, yeah. Because I don't know if you've run into this, but with my 2 bedrooms, we're actually thinking about selling with our huge building that's 4 2-bedrooms, and because the people. So this is Class C housing. Let's get that out there. We're not. This is something that's recession-proof housing essentially. But I've noticed that the people that apply for 2 bedrooms in the city of Lansing are generally not the highest quality. We can get plenty of high-quality people for a 1-bedroom all day.
I had an applicant come in, really nice couple. They were normal. I met them, and they were great. And after the fact, right, I left with a good feeling. Like, hey, we're gonna have a good tenant. They did great, and I went and ran their background check, and they were both felons.
Oh yeah,
so,
perfect.
Yep. So
perfect.
that made it a little difficult there.
Gotcha. So
and their credit came back like
way lower than they said.
Like 400.
Oh my! I didn't know it went that low.
Yeah. So it was pretty bad.
I thought credits just started at 500.
It was pretty bad. So I got a 650 credit limit.
Yeah, I will say screening tenants is something that I got to get down to a better science, because the last 2 people I've put in my 2 bedrooms have been they're good people, and I'm like, I was like, I'll be flexible, because normally I like to see their bank statements, credit.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I just have them go get me their background report, and then that way, if they're willing to give that to me, like go to the cop shop and be like, hey, I need this. I'm like, okay.
I think you can get out of some of that by just pricing your apartment at the right price. If you go too low, you start getting people that are.
And I've also noticed, like, I think mine. I was getting $695 for my 2 bedrooms, and I don't know if sometimes
if you break that $700 barrier, that's just like a psychological barrier that people probably aren't willing to go past.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've been having a tough time because it just seems like people. Like, they just want to be in the area. I know a lot of people like to be in that area, but it's easy to find someone that says they can pay that much and, like, say, like, they make this much per month but then their spending habits are terrible, and then they can't actually afford that. So it's kind of like, should I try to price it a little lower and then try to get a higher quality tenant? Because usually people trying to find a good deal, like, I'm not going to pay $700 for a 2-bedroom. I can do better than that.
Yeah.
But if I price it at like $650, you might get someone better.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I've been running into that where it's kind of difficult for me to fill 2 bedrooms. 1 bedrooms, you find young professionals, you find single people that are all day. I can put 600, 625 for 1 bedroom.
Now, where do you look specifically in Lansing? Right, my properties where I've been looking is really close to Cooley Law School and Lansing Community College. So I'm trying to get those, 25 to 30-year-old.
Exactly.
Young professionals, maybe still in school, so they're not used to higher quality living yet.
Yep.
So they still don't mind.
And honestly, like I had like 35 people apply, and I'll probably say, I think 30 of them either had like next to no income or only on like Social Security income, which is $771 a month. I'm like, this rent is $695.
What are you living on?
Well, you're just gonna move in and just not pay me?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I was like, and then people asked me for. I actually thought about going Section 8 because I was so frustrated in the last tenant that was in there.
Do you have a limit for income to rent?
3 times.
Okay, that's exactly what mine
I got
was as well.
doped on one because 3 times post tax. Some guy told me he makes like $1,900 a month, and I'm just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, you almost need pay stubs.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I need to get pay stubs because that was. But sometimes I just got into a bind this summer because I was working out 3 hours away for work. I was going up to Manistee 4 or 5 days a week, and I had an apartment that was open. So I was coming down, and I was kind of getting a little desperate. And when you get desperate, that's when you kind of make rush decisions and bad decisions. Because like that one building, I mean, we basically had 1 month and a half where we didn't get any income on one apartment, but that one apartment is the profit in that building. It's like the 3 cover all the expenses plus budgeting for stuff.
That's a good way to think.
And then the 4th one is pure profit. So I'm like, I was getting pissed off because like right now I'm not getting my my bread and butter right now.
Yeah, that's a good way to think of it. I think for this new property, I'm gonna put I just put an offer in a couple weeks ago, hoping to close just after the first of the year. I think what I'm gonna do, there's a person downstairs. They're month to month, and they've clearly let the place go. They still have old stoves in there. They're the with a pilot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think what I'll do once we get control of the place, I'll probably give them their 30-day notice because they're month to month, and then I'll basically eat that cost.
Yeah.
For several months, so that.
So are you gonna do that? So the upstairs one is vacant.
Upstairs, but
it's clean.
No, there's tenants in both.
Oh, there's tenants in both.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay.
So there's tenants in both. So essentially, the upstairs, they seem really nice. It's always a crapshoot when you just take on someone else's tenants. But
and usually I feel like now people are selling because they're just frustrated, and they might have crappy tenants in there.
Right. Yeah, I like your method, right? Instead of evicting, why don't you just say, "Hey, I'll give you $200 to be out by Friday." That seems so much easier than going through the whole eviction process.
Yeah, that was. I had a guy. I don't know if I told that story, but I basically had a guy that didn't pay rent, and I'm trying to be flexible because his tires got slashed the first time there's any crime in the area,
right?
And it just happened to be 3 days after he moved in, he has tires slashed, and he's whatever. It turned out to be his baby's mama's.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like some drama. Yeah.
And anyway, so they. What were you saying before that?
Oh, your eviction
process.
Oh, that's
eviction. Oh, yeah. But then, so anyway, he didn't. So I was like, I'll be flexible with this guy. He's got tire slash. He just had to shell out like $500 for tires. And, I was like, when he didn't pay, I was like, okay, get to me the end of the month. End of the month came. He's like, hey, I don't have it. He's like, can I write you a post-dated check? So then he pushed it. So now he didn't pay me for June. Now it's July 1st. And I'm like, hey, you got to pay me, for June. And I probably should have, I was trying to be flexible with the guy and just work with him because he was a good guy. He made like $2,600 a month. I'm like, this is, good dude. And he spoke well.
Some people just don't know how to manage their money, though.
That's the thing. It's like he spoke well and he made good money. But then now we're July, and then he wrote me a check for July like 18th because that was like like he got paid on like July 4th, and he got paid 2 weeks later. But I'm like, okay, and then didn't talk to him and posted a check like for $800. And then July 18th comes around. I haven't talked to him, and next he texts, and I've tried talking to this guy before noon several times, but he works like evenings and nights.
Oh, so that's his sleeping time.
But then next thing you know, July 18th at 6:30 in the morning, he texts me, hey, that check's probably gonna bounce. I'm like, when are you gonna tell me that? just the day that you get paid. So I went to his bank and I tried cashing it and trying to get as much money as I could, but they were like, no, he doesn't have any money in his account. I still have the check. I've been thinking about trying to cash it, but that was the last straw when I was like, you need to get the heck out. And then he's waffling, and I'm like, I'll tell you what, I'll give you $200 to be out by, I said Saturday. $200 to be out by Saturday. Anyway, on Sunday he texts me. He's like, hey, I'm all out. You want to come get the keys and we'll trade? And then so he hands me the keys, and then he's like, where's my $200? I said you had to be out by Saturday. Today's Sunday. I was like, but thanks for the keys. And he's like, whatever, man. I was like, yeah. I was like, you already owe me a bunch of money. I was like, I thought about taking him to court and garnishing his wages because that's a really easy thing to do.
Is it?
Yeah.
I've never looked into the process. It's something that's
like... A guy told me about it this past summer, and he said that there's a form you fill out. You just have to talk to the judge, be like, yep, they send this contract, they owe me this much, and they garnish their wages. But I'm like, I was like, maybe this guy, sometimes I put too much faith in people. I'm like, maybe this guy needs a break.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, yeah,
I believe in that. I mean, I think you always have to give people the benefit of the doubt, but you've got to find a way to remove your own emotions from situations.
Oh, definitely.
And that's maybe something that you got caught up with a little bit there, right? You're talking. He's good at speaking. He makes a lot of money. It seems like he's a good guy.
Yeah,
but at some point, you gotta draw a line in the sand and say, logically, I'm running a business here and I got to make money.
Exactly.
And I think that's where people run into issues when they try to scale. If they continue to make decisions that way, then they'll run into issues.
And I was like, so basically we didn't take cash out for a little while, and then we ended up getting hit with a monstrous tax bill because they bumped our SUV up from when we bought it. Taxable was 52, SUV was 55.
Yeah.
And then I got the tax bill and the SUV was like 68. I'm like, how can you bump the SUV from 55 to 68? I thought it was going to go from 52 to 55 when I bought it. So I'm like, a little bit. But our tax bill went from being like $3,500 to $6,000. I'm like, so that was like $2,500. That wasn't.
I'm gonna have to talk about that because that's similar. Something similar happened to the first property I have.
Well, I went and I talked to. I went into the assessor's office and I basically complained like, listen, this. I was like, this property's in the ghetto. It's falling apart, and you're trying to get $8,000 a year out of taxes.
Yeah, like, what are you doing?
Like, we'll go look for it. With them just going and looking at it and then coming back to me, they lowered both my properties 15%. No questions asked.
That's huge.
And then 15% because then that went from like 60. It brought
so
down to like
$60 a month or something.
No, it was between the two properties, it was probably $1,500 a year. It was like $100 a month that they dropped both.
That's
it was huge. Yeah, and then I was just like, I needed it, but they were just saying that the building's so big because it's like 5,500 square feet.
Okay.
In each apartment is like 1,200 square feet that they said like they can't drop it that much. But Mallory's brother, I'll probably get him on episode number 4. But he's got 3 properties that are 4 1-bedrooms. I have 4 2-bedrooms. But his SUVs are like $39,000 each. So his tax bills are nothing.
That's amazing.
I'm like, dude, how the heck did that get by? And apparently, since his buildings are all old and brick, they don't like to bump SUVs up. But since my building has like vinyl siding on it, it looks a little nicer. They bump them up. And
but you think the old brick buildings like maintain value? They look the same year to year to year.
If bricks aren't falling out, then it's fine.
They may maybe it looks older because certain styles of brick are dated.
Yeah, you know what?
That's it. Who knows?
I mean, jumping back to a little bit of our background. I mean, John is an electrical engineer. What do you do for a full-time job right now?
I work for Ford. Engineer.
Yep. And you're working the transmissions, right?
I work on transmissions, axles, driveline components.
Yep. So, we do
soul
stuff.
Sucking.
Yeah, we do stuff. Civil engineer, and we work on stuff, and it's like we're both the same way. Where if like, okay, this is what's happening, we need to understand everything that happens behind it. Just because that's the way our brains operate.
Yep.
It's kind of like when you get in your car and you hammer on the gas. It's like you probably like. I always think about like what's going on there. Like, okay, you hit the gas, your TPS sensor, your throttle plate's opening up, your TPS sensor's doing this and sending this to the computer, it's getting all the inputs, and you're going. But then when I got like the SUVs, I'm like, this makes no effing sense.
Oh yeah.
And then I started talking to these people, and they're like, well, we just have an assessor that comes by, and we work with them, and we feel like this, we feel like that. I go, there's no feeling about this.
It's amazing how much you'll get a different answer out of one assessor to the next. I know there's supposed to be a licensing process, but it seems like in those lower income areas, the property could be worth $30,000, could be worth $60,000. When you get into $300,000 houses, there's not much air there,
definitely.
but in the cheaper housing, it's
There's some more coffee.
definitely. Yeah, I'll get another pot.
You go fill it up. I mean, you don't need to make more, but you're running a little light. I saw you shaking that cup around. The most important part of this Caffeine and Cashflow, episode 3, is that we have caffeine. A steady stream of caffeine.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get jittery and
I know, yeah, and you get all of
go work on a bunch of stuff.
And then we go grab some food, and then I gotta hit church.
Yeah.
Because I'm scared.
Yeah.
You know that rap song?
No.
I'm scared motherfucker, go to church. Anyway, we were talking about SUVs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But that's big things. Like City of Lansing has a millage rate of like 81 mils or 90 mils or something astronomical.
Well, you know why it's so expensive in cities, with...
Well, right now it's like infrastructure's falling apart and they need money. But
Lansing, not so much, but in, let's say, Ann Arbor or East Lansing.
Yep. I'm listening.
Those places are... when they split up the taxes, they split it by area of property. So the universities in those areas have such a large area in that county, or in that what do you call it, municipality.
Yep.
That the tax burden falls onto the small number of residential properties and businesses.
Because
in
they
that area.
can't, because they don't tax the universities, is what you're saying?
Yeah, the universities are tax-free entities. And I have to assume it's the same in Lansing, right? A lot of the area is owned by the government.
Well, that's all in Ingham County, Michigan State. So Lansing, East Lansing, all that is.
Yeah, but each municipality has a different millage rate.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, like East Lansing and Ann Arbor, even Ypsilanti, the tax millage rate is so high, and it's hard to buy a property there because your taxes will be so much.
I never even thought about that. I mean, I wonder if like hospitals are the same way.
I'm not sure.
I mean,
I know for sure that universities are tax free. A lot of them are nonprofits.
Gotcha. I wonder. I mean, City of Lansing, there are a lot of city-owned properties too, and
they're actually the biggest landlord in Lansing.
Who is?
City of Lansing. Yep, they have the most properties.
I was actually looking at this because we tried buying a 12-unit building that had a fire in the basement, and the whole thing, they just boarded it up, and it's closed. Looked up the owners, and it's some nonprofit. They don't pay anything in taxes. But then we started looking up the nonprofit, and they own a whole bunch of apartment complexes, and I think that it was like some guy in Grand Rapids that was in charge of selling it. He's like, yeah, that happened like 8 months ago. We're not sure what we're gonna do with property. And they, on BSNA, they said they bought it for like 125 grand, like 6 years ago. And I'm like, I'll give you 125 grand right now for an empty 12 unit.
Yeah,
I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, I don't care if it has fire damage. I was like, I'll take care of that. But they're like, yeah, there's just a fire in the basement, and I actually peeled. One of the boards was missing. I don't know, one of the windows in the basement. So I just went by and I looked at it, and it was bad. I was like, yeah, there's some damage in there, but it's nothing that a structural engineer can't go in there and say, yep, it's fine.
Actually, the property I just put an offer on, there were 2 separate fires in that place. And
oh, really?
When we looked at it, we went in there.
Atlas.
Boys.
I'll beach some dog food.
It's just dog food.
Yeah.
So there's 2 separate fires. There's one in the attic. It's a duplex split top and bottom.
Okay.
And in the attic, there was one that we think it was likely in the 50s based on the materials they used
to
repair it.
Yeah.
And then there was one in the basement, separate time, small fire, most likely caused by someone not clearing the dryer vent.
Oh yeah.
But again, small fire they had repaired with newer materials. So as long as it's structurally okay, I don't see an issue. Buying a place with that's been through a fire.
I actually looked at a house that for 40 grand in the city of DeWitt sold for 180 last year. Had a fire in the basement. I went down there. There was like some charring on the joists, but it was old 2x, like full 2x, and it was actually to code. Yeah, not inch and a half, yep. But actually 2x.
Yeah, so it was built pre 1930-ish.
Yeah.
I don't know when they switched over to.
They redid the whole thing. Yeah, I forget. I should know. I took a timber design class and we talked about that in college because the big thing is, and with the extra width, you get a lot more capacity. But I was looking at it and I started chipping off some of the ash on the joist and I was grabbing it. I'm like, there's still over like 1.75 inches worth of meat in here. Like it was just like maybe an area like this that was burnt in the corner, and then so these joists were like charred real good.
How do they measure the carrying capacity of those boards after they've been damaged? Is it just by depth?
No, so a lot of places won't even do it. But technically, like you probably took a statics class or something like that. But I think the depth is cubed and the width is squared in the equation for the capacity.
Okay.
Yeah, so like depth is most important. But yeah, so if it gets too skinny, I mean, that's still an important thing.
Right.
But a lot of places will just say, just sister them, and you're good to go.
That makes sense.
It's like, so that's why when people freak out about it. But that house would end up being totaled. Like the insurance company didn't want to touch it anymore, and then so they just paid them out, paid off the mortgage. The big thing is because the fire's in the basement and there's some charring on the wall because there's a hole drilled in the side where a cable went through.
Okay.
And then so there's black on the first story wall, like on the drywall. And then they're like, well, the fire could have spread inside the wall. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, if the fire spread inside the wall, then this wall in the attic would still be on fire because they only put the fire out in the basement.
All they really have to do is cut the drywall off between
but
those studs.
apparently they're not allowed to open up the walls because it's a structural issue at that point.
It's drywall.
So I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, I can buy this house for $40,000, which I should have pulled the trigger on it, but I just had a lot of irons in the fire at that point.
That's both our issue.
I was gambling.
Is learning how to, pick one thing and stick to it for a while. Both of us tend to
bounce all over.
Put our hands in everything at once. And
you still own a motorcycle right now?
I do.
Yeah.
Still in the garage. I have to fix the petcock on it. It's
of course.
Dumping fuel into the into the carb. Those are always it's a early 80s motorcycle.
Yeah, John and I, we have a real love for crap.
Yeah, and I'm trying to become a minimalist, but
I know.
I need a big pole barn in the back where I can just collect all that stuff and not look at it.
I'd say moving every once in a while helps you kind of shell out, thin the herd. But I mean, that's what the big thing for me when I moved out of Pompey.
I think with real estate, it's important to really just minimize everything else you've got going in your life. Get rid of some of the projects that could tie you up. Get rid of some, just junk around the house. And you get rid of all that, you really start to focus on your goal.
Yeah.
You can apply time to that every day, even if it's 20-30 minutes a day that you're analyzing deals or whatever.
Well, I want to touch on this too. Actually, I was thinking about this coming on the way over here. Was so John was an athlete in college for a little bit at least.
4 years, 4.5 years.
Oh, you were that long, hey?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, just the last
year.
So pretty
much like when I met you your last year, because we didn't meet until my last year in college.
Yeah.
But
hit it off.
But like I feel like when you're an athlete, you always kind of have this pressure, like you need to be doing something to improve yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's probably. And
it's a competition spirit, I guess.
And but I mean, where was I going with this? I also want to kind of touch on how when we're
goals.
Not so much goals, but I mean, you also, when you're training, like say you're weightlifting, or you did an Ironman, where there's a ton of work but it's all about the grind. Like you gotta enjoy the grind.
I actually don't enjoy the event as much as
like just
the
grind
lead up to it, right?
Yeah.
So I did a 50-miler in May as well, ultra marathon, and what I really enjoy is, when you look back after the event. Let's say you started training a year before. You've just finished 50 miles and you could barely run 2 miles at the beginning of this.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my Ironman, right? I got out of college and I had 2 years where I didn't even do anything.
Yeah, but I think it's really important to take that mindset into real estate investing, because there's gonna be times like where.
But it's a cumulative. It's a
very
work,
slow thing. It's like the snowball rolling downhill. It just kind of picks up speed. You start. And then all of a sudden, you don't think you did that great, but then taxes come around, and you're like, oh, well, I actually did pretty good this year. And, even if you didn't, like the tax benefits for while you're still working, are huge too.
If you see, a year's worth of work, an hour a day or a half hour a day, you'll see huge results that you never would have thought.
Especially when you compare how much effort you put into your real estate as you did your full-time job, and then you start realizing like, okay, like, this is actually worth it, and this is actually something that you could grow exponentially versus, your job is a very linear path.
Yeah, I mean, you work 40 hours a week, to make your W-2 income. And if you could work 40 hours a week in real estate and make money for yourself, imagine, where that could go.
Yeah.
So for me, my goal is not necessarily to quit all at once.
Yep.
Ford offers different programs where I can go. I think it's called the TWA program, where I can take Fridays off.
Oh, nice.
And maybe I only work Monday through Thursday, and then I can go to halftime, and I slowly phase out as I bring in more real estate. That would be my goal.
That'd probably be the way to do it. You'll like the book that I just read last night, but it's all about he basically the turmoil he went through when he finally decided to quit, because he basically realized he made like $35,000 to $40,000. He made $40,000 the previous year, and then he went to get his bonus that year, and they basically said, "Hey, you messed up on this, so we're not giving you your bonus." Yeah. Even though he said he was the highest performer, but as a company they did bad, so they basically had to cut a bunch of people's bonuses.
Yep.
And he was like, "You know what?" He's like, I really don't need this.
You're not a master of your own destiny.
Yep.
In that sense, when you work for someone else.
And then he also talked about how you actually go from quitting that to now leveraging those properties, refinancing, and really putting that towards, like, because you don't get taxed on money when you refinance. Right. So then he's saying you buy your next property, you can buy it with cash since you refinanced with a bunch of cash up. But he owned properties for like 3 to 5 years before he quit. So you have to have that base though. Like you got to have that 3 to 5 years of base, so that way a bank will be willing to loan for you. So now you have a track record. Yep. Of what you've done.
I actually just found a broker that will lend, as long as you've got the down payment, he will lend based on 75% of the rental. The rentals. And it's
like the income method?
The income method, yeah. So that's really important.
Yeah, yep. God, I feel like there's something else I want to talk to you about that I don't even touch on yet. I don't know, I guess is there anything else that you want to share with the world about your...
Oh, I mean the first duplex.
Yeah.
City of Lansing just told me they want to put an offer on the place. They're going to tear down 2 or 3. They want to tear down 2 or 3 properties right where mine is and make a park.
Oh yeah.
So I'm pretty excited. I think they just got the funds approved through their voting process or however they do it, and then
probably why my taxes are so high.
Probably, yeah. You're going to be paying me. So I think.
You think when do you think they're going to make an offer?
May or June, I should get an offer, and hopefully, my goal is to wait and see what my neighbors do, and if I want them to accept an offer first, and I want to be the last holdout, because then I'll get a little bit more money. So I'm expecting a big return on that. Honestly, it was just completely lucky.
Honestly, like when I went to the SEV, they talked to their assessor, and they wanted to know what my rents were and everything, and they wanted to go by the income method. And when they did the income method, it was like astronomical amount. So tell them that you want the income method, because $1,500, say like 1% rule, you owe me $150,000. Yep. Even though you bought it for 50. Even worst case scenario, you say 1.5, now you're down to $100,000. Yeah. And 1.5, people buy stuff at 1.5%.
I put money into it. I got it rented out. That's worth something. So
effort. You have to say hundreds of hours.
Yeah. So if you think about, I've owned the property for basically a year as of beginning of December. So in 1 year, year and a half, if I sell it for $75,000. I've made that plus the rents. So
so pretty much you can say like
it's best case scenario.
Yeah, I don't know, it'll be awesome. But well, hey, that's a wrap. Thanks for coming on and talking about a little bit of
we'll do the next one in the sauna.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. These are kind of a work in progress here. We're just kind of going through, just drinking coffee, talking about some things that we bump into. But we'll come up maybe come up with a script and maybe put the dogs away.
Yeah, we got to deal with the dogs.
But
kind of nuts.
Well, hey, Caffeine and Cashflow episode 3. That's a wrap.